Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Writers Chat. We are so glad to have you with us today. We're happy that you're here live, though hidden, or whether you're watching the replay. And we're going to get right into the program because we're going to be talking about the organized writer or organizing the writer and sharing different tips and things on how to do that. I'm joined today by my co-hosts, Melissa Stroh and Brandy Brow, and they are also going to be sharing a lot of ideas on how to be organized because, writing it's such a solitary task anyway, right? But then it's like you're in charge of so many things. It's not just simply the writing. You have to be concerned about keeping track of like submissions and rejections and acceptances, and you have to keep track of social media things that you're doing to build your platform. So there's just so many aspects to writing besides just writing a story or writing an article or writing a devotional or whatever it is that you're writing. So we're going to hop right in. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to start off talking about finances. This is something that I don't remember when we first talked about this, and I'm going to go off screen too, if I can figure out how to do it, or at least minimize. And I've lost the chat. So if anybody has any questions, you guys will have to tell me. We talked one time, it may have been an after party, about keeping track of finances and the IRS and all that kind of thing. And I've been using a modified version of this Excel worksheet for several years now. Now, I did make up my own numbers, and I made them all the same for the income, because I truly am not making $7,500 a pop no matter what I do. But the first three things on here are like definitely things that I had, and I think I kind of made up the rest. But anyway, what you do is you want to keep track of your income. So all I do is very simply have a column for the date, column for the item, and then these are different categories that I have found work for me. You may have different ones that work for you. So book sales, that would be like if I'm at a conference and I've sold books, taken books there to sell. Freelance writing, I do very little of that, but I know some of you do quite a bit of that, and you definitely want to keep track of where that money's where that money comes from. I do some editing. Under publishing, I do both indie and traditional publishing, so I want to keep those separate, but that's just for me, just so I sort of have an idea how I'm doing in each category. And of course, many of us who write, we also speak, we also teach. Those actually could be combined. And then travel reimbursement. If you've been given money for travel, that's another thing I just want to keep separate from an honorarium. And I put notes. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It depends on whether I really need it or not. Now, look at down here where my little cursor is, if you can see it, the 12/31/21 Amazon KDP. When you're indie published, Amazon sends you or deposits money in your account like every month or something like that. But my amounts are like, it's like, oh great, another $5 or $6, or oh wow, I made $10 or whatever, because I just have the one book. Anyway, well, I guess two. But anyway, it was like a hassle to remember to put all those down. And last year I realized that I don't have to, because they send you a 1099 at the end, or there's a statement where you can find what the total is. So that's what I am just waiting. I mean, I do have it here for this example, but I'm just waiting for the end of the year. But this reminds me that that I have to fill this in. Usually I have a blank space right between row 9 and row 10 on this one, so that I can add other things as they come through during the year. And this is like the very last line in my writing finances income part of this worksheet. Okay, now this is the main part, because this is how the IRS sets things up. So these are actually some of the expenses I had, and I just went through and deleted a bunch of them so you wouldn't be overwhelmed with a whole listing, because there's quite a bit. Advertising is one of the Schedule C categories. So as a small business, self-employed, you have to fill out a Schedule C. Now, and remember, I'm not trying to give anybody tax advice because I am not that good. I'm just telling you what I know and what I do. So, take it or leave it. But if you have an accountant, you might want to talk to them about it. But anyway, advertising. If I advertise for an event, it would go in there. Anything else, social media stuff. This includes, let's see what that Amazon thing was. Let's Chat giveaways. I give items away in my newsletter every month. Sometimes I give novels away. So anything, I consider that marketing. Apps are in here. Book Brush, Barnes and Nobles. This must have been, I think this was for another giveaway. And then I'll show you this in a minute, but these are 4 things that I have every single month. So instead of putting them every month, again, I've just got the last day of the month and I have this set up. If you look at this, see up here in this function thing, it is a calculation. And I'll show you where that number comes from in a minute. Okay, so then we've got books and magazines, office supplies, postage, software like BookFunnel, shipping and handling, storage. That's because I think that's like iCloud and things like that. Apple storage. I think it's like $2.99 a month or something. And then there's other, and these are the things that do not fit in advertising, office supplies, and expenses. And there's a line on the Schedule C for other, and these all go into it. So any associations I might be paying dues to, like American Fiction Writers, any conferences that I attend that I pay for, any government fees that have to do with filing, my business name or whatever. These aren't technically with the other, but they are also others. Like when I buy my books from the publisher, this is where I put them, and then I just put them in that same other line. And I have this category furniture, but I think that was a holdover from last year when I bought a desk, so I had to add it in, but like I haven't bought any furniture this year. Money to pay for taxes, and then of course the total, because it totals this whole line. And then notes, where I talk about, these are the things that this is what I did. This is what that money was spent for. Okay. And then I have this same line again, because as it gets longer and longer, it's sometimes easier to see what it is from this side. Then what I do is same categories: advertising, office expenses, and other. And I have this. So it's like this: total for marketing, social media, automatically gets updated here because I have this calculation right here, and I do that for everything. And then it's the total and the total. Same thing here: books and magazines. It's this $25.98. It's automatically going to show up here because I have that formula in this cell. This will be the total, and then this $764.54 total advertising, and this total office expenses equals this. And that's what I've done all the way down here. Now these are where it gets a little bit tricky, because it's the travel, and there's different things that go on with that. Right here in this blue thing, I keep my odometer readings, because they will ask you that on your Schedule C, what your December 31st odometer reading is on your car. So I try to keep track of that there. So travel, this could be like going to a local bakery or coffee shop to meet with other writers on a Saturday morning. I'm not doing much of that these days, but when I did, this is where I would put it. The round trip miles, if I had to pay any tolls, this was local. This was if it was a longer trip. And here, and I've got a little note to myself: check the IRS, because this number changes every year. You want your miles times this amount. And so in this, you can see that's the formula. It's C72, which is this right now. It's 0 times 58 cents. And that would give me that. So this would all be filled in if I was doing more traveling. This actually has to go away. I was going to go to a conference and ended up being too sick to do so, but I left this in here just so you can see a trip of more than one day. I was going to fly to Idaho for a retreat. So this will be deleted. I won't be able to take that, since I instead went to use that travel money and went to Virginia to see my daughter, which is not a writing expense. But then this too will show up right here. See, it automatically goes there. So I've already filled out all these formulas for you. If you want to use this, they're all set and waiting. So all you have to do is just put in your numbers. These are my recurring monthly expenses, and this is where I put them, write them down. So it's this number then that goes up into that up here for these, and it's all set up. So at the end of the year, this is the total I've spent, and I don't have to be putting those in every single month. So these are the ones, again, I use these every month. I keep them down here, and this, as this number changes, it changes up in that other expense column. And then that affects, of course, everything else. And these are some recurring expenses, which is just so I can kind of keep track of them. I wanted to show you, here is another little formula where I've got my total income. I wish it was this much money a year. I promise you it is not. And look how low my expenses are, because I already took a lot of them out of there for this worksheet, so you wouldn't have to deal with them all. And then it shows a profit and loss. And this is just gives me a very quick look. So this number, as you can see, is the sum of this number, K11. And the expenses is the total expenses, which is this. And then, of course, it subtracts it. And if I have outstanding invoices I need to keep track of, I just put them here. So that's that in a nutshell. And it may look complicated, but really it's not. And I've been using it, like I said, for several years. And I change it as I need to. You know, I make like I added furniture when I needed to. And then I just copy it from one year to the next. Another thing I think you need to have to be organized, which really helps me, is bit.ly links and knowing when to promote them. And so here's like HHH stands for Heroes, Heroines in History. I write for that blog every month. I make a bit.ly link for all of my posts. These are my novel giveaways I do once a month. And when I've promoted them, I put done. So that kind of helps me keep track of the bit.ly links for these. When I first create the post, I also create the bit.ly link. And so it's already done. Very simple form. Giveaways. I think it's really important. If you're giving away a lot of stuff, you really need to keep track of them. So I've got columns for the giveaway, the item being given away, and then here I would put the winner's name, their email address, their address, the date I notified them that they won, whatever the prize was, the date I mailed that prize if I'm in charge of mailing it. Sometimes I have people like Candace Posey West. She gave a copy of her book away, so I would notify Candace, here's your winner. And when Candace tells me that she mailed it or sent it, because sometimes it's ebook, so they just have to send them through Amazon, I'll make a note right here. So this is kind of like my note column. Guest post, you want to keep track of that too. The date of the guest post, the contact person who asked you to write the post, the date that post is due, email address, website, the project. TCD for me stands for the Cryptographer's Dilemma. I was writing several guest posts during the launch of that book. Am I giving a copy of the book away? I need to know that, yes or no. Then once that post goes live, I create a bit.ly link for it, which I can add to my bit.ly link list. And then, of course, again, any notes. There's three other things here, but I'm not going to get into them. If you have questions about them, you can ask me, but I want to give Melissa and Brandy plenty of time to get through what they have to. This will go onto the Facebook group, so that if you want to download it, you can. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to Brandy. Are you going first? Okay.
That was great. I do a similar thing with my tax document with a spreadsheet. I'm just curious though. I'm one of these people that likes to have a printout of my. I'm looking at that. I'm going, how would you print that out? It'd be all broken up. So I try to make my I try to make my forms so that they will print on a normal letter page, which is tricky, which means I have to.
Yeah, yeah. Landscape, make the margins really small. But you know, I don't print it out anymore. I do keep all my receipts and they're in a folder, but I used to print it out, and now I don't.
Yeah, well, I print everything for, tax return. You print it out to have a copy, so I put my stuff in there. And I have to give a print out to my accountant. So I have to have mine a little bit more consolidated, but I use a couple different forms. I use a monthly form, and then I take all the monthly and then I put it onto a yearly form that's laid out similarly, and then I hand him the yearly one with all of the totals. So I do a similar thing. My totals, instead of on the right side, I take my totals and I put it on the left side so I can see the running totals right when I look at the thing. And then you can also lock your fields so that when you scroll, you still see the headers. And yeah, it depends on what you got set up. There's a lot of different ways to do it.
Yeah, that's a good idea, because that's why I always have headers at the, I do them at the top and I do them in the bottom, not only on this, but on other things too, like my personal finances, because you can't see them after you put too many in.
Right.
You can't see them anymore.
Right. Well, first thing I'm going to talk about, oh, Johnnie.
Yes.
2 tips.
Okay. We all agreed we would share 2 tips, and these guys took the best 2. So I guess 4. So I'm like, okay. And I've been thinking, so I woke up this morning with 2 great tips, and guess what? One of them went right out of my head. So
that's okay. 1 tip then.
And 1 tip, I think this is really important, and it really helps me out, is I set weekly writing goals instead of daily writing goals, because you never know when a day is just going to be completely blown away. And I try to make them for 5 days a week instead of 6, or never do 7, because I really like Sundays to be off. That gives me Saturday as a makeup day. I don't follow that as religiously as I wish, but that is my goal, and I have that goal all the time. So I make a weekly writing goal. And in fact, one of the little sheets sheets that I did not show you is a writing goal sheet. So you can take a look at that when you see it, and how I keep track of how I need to write and so forth and so on. So that's my goal. If I come up with whatever that other one was that was hazy in my mind this morning, I'll share it later.
Sounds good. All right. My first tip
is write things down. If you wake up with ideas, write them down.
And look at that. Johnnie gave a perfect example of why it's a good idea to write things down. I have to write everything down because this is like a sieve.
Yes.
That's what I joke around that's one of the reasons I'm a writer, because I don't remember things really good. The other reason I'm a writer is that I do math really badly. So I'm much better with words than numbers. So my first tip is to be kind to yourself as you search for your system, and know that you will eventually find it if you keep looking. And one of the things that I started out with is, well, I'm a what you see is what you get kind of person. But that also means that I'm really visually oriented. So if I have a bunch of stuff that's on my computer and the file is closed, I'm not seeing it in front of my eyes, I'm apt to forget it. I really need to have visual reminders. So I'm like one of those classic people that is really prone to having Post-it notes everywhere. Fortunately, I don't have a whole bunch everywhere, but that's probably also why I'm not as organized as I probably could be. But one of the things that I do, because I do a lot of short fiction, and I usually have a lot of things that are going at the same time, is that I have to keep them here. This is a disc planner. You can use any disc planner, or you could do the 3-ring binder. I used to use a 3-ring binder. Cheap version of Happy Planner, if you can't afford Happy Planner because they tend to be expensive, is Staples. Staples has the ARC system. It's the same thing, just not quite as colorful. Really great for guys because they're not flowery and colorful. But anyway, I take this, and you can see I have some tabs here, and then I have a whole bunch of little tabs I put in here with small Post-it notes. I told you I was a Post-it girl. So my tabs here is I have micro for microfiction, flash for flash fiction. The difference is negligible, but an important one. Short stories, children's, and poetry. And then all these little tabs up here are stories that I have in progress. So these are ones that I'm still revising, working on, or I have ideas going. And that's how I keep track of that, because otherwise my brain goes absolutely nuts, because I'm like, what am I working on? I need to see it in one place to kind of get an overview, and then be able to go to the smaller story and work on the one little story. One of the things that I do within this, because I have such a difficult time marketing my work. It's just overwhelming, marketing itself. I don't enjoy it. So to help me when I create a story, I took this little thing. This is got a little bullet point things. This is one of the templates that Happy Planner has for their pages in some of their planners, but you can just do whatever. You can make your own little bullets. But I took like a story. I put a story here, and I took one little section, and then on this side, no, I did the other way around. On the side, I wrote the name of the story, and then I have some sections here, and then I put markets that I thought this story would be appropriate for. And so I am developing a list of the places that I want to send a particular story, so that if I bomb out on one place, I got another place to submit it to, and then I'm not freaking out. It kind of heads off the rejection discomfort when you have a plan. So if I don't hit this market, they don't like my story, I can try this one. If they don't like this one, I can try this. And of course, if I get to the end, I'm like, oh, well, maybe that's just not a great story. Maybe I need to revise it more. I don't know. Maybe we'll just put it in the back burner. But that's what I do for that. And my dear, you need to hold on because I'm talking. Thank you. Mwah. My daughter. The next thing that I do is track my submissions. Oh, speaking of rejections, by the way, to help ease I have children. To help ease this thing of rejection, I made this 100 writing rejections list. So that way I feel like I'm winning even if I've lost. In other words, if I get a rejection, I get to fill it out here. And if I get to the end, I'm like, yay. And then, I haven't done this, but for people that really have that need to just keep going, reward themselves, and you get to the end of 100 writing rejections, give yourself a little treat. Because honestly, if this is a good marker for how much I'm submitting, and it reminds me that, real writers submit and they get rejected. And that it's just proof that you're on the right track, even if it's not accepted things. The rejections is just proof that you're working out the writing process. I have a little section here. Sometimes I find lists of potential markets. So I'll print it out and I'll just put it in here, and then I'll go through and I'll figure out which ones are good for me, which ones, fit which stories. And then this is the other thing that I use, query submissions log. And I'm going to share my screen to show you a blank picture of it. Share. Okay. Boy, so many options for what to share. Get that. Okay, this is the right one. Okay, so this right here is my query submissions log. I'm going to scoot it over here. So there. So this is an easy way to get started. Just a simple printout, and I will take this form and I'll put it in Writers Chat members for you to download and work from. I don't work in the folder, in the file itself. This is a Word file. I print it out, and I print it so I have this on the front and this on the back. And the way I print it out, I made the bottom down here a little bigger and the top up here a little bigger, so that you can flip it and you can have like your lines here. And then when you flip it up, you'll have it looking at you this way, and it has room. There's a margin for if you use a disc planner or a 3-ring binder, so that it won't cut into the words. So I have, this is the, whoopsies, this sent is the date. I have a key at the bottom down here. Up here, it says way and kind. This is where my key comes in. The way would be, I sent it through M mail or W website. The key, the kind is assignment, or maybe it's a bid, or it was a contest. Perhaps it was a pitch or a query or submission. So I use those little letters, S, Q, and I put that in here. Got is for when they send a confirmation that they received it. Sometimes you get a confirmation, sometimes you don't. If I get one, I put it in here. If I don't hear from somebody for a long time, I have stat. I put the date here, the month, the day, and then the year if I want to, or just the month. I used to put month, day, and year, but now I'm changing this out right here, changing out the year every year so that the whole sheet is just the same year. And then back is the date that I hear back. Place for the market, the title of the piece, enclosure. If I was sending out things by mail, a lot of the times I would include a self-addressed stamped envelope. So I would just write SACE in there. Now, a lot of days things are digital. So I will write if I enclosed a picture or a bio, because a lot of places will ask for that sometimes. And then the reply is what the reply was. By the way, there's 2 lines here so that you have a little bit more to work with, a little more room to work with. So I designed 2 lines for each submission. If it's accepted, then I put in here what rights, if there's a payment, how much it was for. If there's a situation where I have to invoice for something, I put a column for invoicing. The paid column here is the date that it's paid, and then a little publication for when it's published. That way I just kind of know. And then I have some other little forms on the side just to track publication and rights for individual stories. And then this here, my little finish line flag, this is, I check it off when this whole thing has been processed, everything is done, and I don't have to think about it again, and then I move on. Now, one thing that I do is this, I started out with, this is an easy way to start out while you're finding a system, and this might be the best system for you. I, right now, am kind of in between systems. So I'm going to, new share. I guess I'm going to stop sharing this so I can share something else, because I don't know how to switch from one to another. So this takes me to tip 2. That is, what works for you might not work anymore after you grow and change, or the industry grows and changes. So remain flexible in your system and change it if you find something that works better for you, or you need something different than what you've been using. So that's kind of what I've been doing recently, because things have changed. We used to send out a lot of things by mail, and now a lot of things are digital. We have more digital capabilities. We have apps, we have computers. Things aren't quite so paper oriented anymore, even though I still am. So I'm finding myself a little bit caught in between 2 systems right now. I'm kind of reevaluating as I go and trying to find out what works for me. At the moment, that means that I am sort of doing a little bit of double duty. So I'm kind of logging things on my paper so that I see it's in my face, but then I'm also logging digitally. So maybe not the best use of my time, but it's kind of what I need to do right now while I figure out what to work on. So this is my submissions log that I have started in Scrivener using the outline mode. And you can see here, I have a whole bunch of these things, and they just have a whole bunch of no status. You can change different things. But over here, there is metadata. So I made a metadata for the type of market, and then I added markets, payment, whether the market pays, there's an honorarium, pays anthology, or non-paying, a date for submission, responded, the response. Brandy, yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, but it looks like I'm not showing your screen. You've got at least from my view, you've got a strip of your screen and then everything's black. So you might need to go out and then reshare it again.
Yeah. Is that better? Can you see it now?
Yeah, now
okay. Okay, it disappeared when I changed monitors. Okay, so as I was saying, on this side, there is, thank you for saying something. I have a place for markets where I put in some common markets that I will submit to, whether it pays or not, the date for submission, the response date, the type of response, word count if I want it, if there's a contract, and then payment. This will give you kind of an idea as well. I have a lot of no status. I think I was changing things around. And then you can take all of these and they show up over here. I've kind of been in between, but this works for me, sort of. I'm trying to figure out what works for me. As you can tell, I'm in between systems. So don't be afraid to kind of scout around, figure out what works, what doesn't work for you. This kind of works, but I'm not happy with how much time I'm spending on two things. So I'm still trying to work it out, and that's okay, because that's what you do. You kind of shift things around and you figure out that something doesn't work so well. So the last thing that I wanted to share was, I have so many screens on that. Aha, here we go. All right. Last thing is my Kanban board. This is to help organize my brain. So if I could take a Kanban board with me everywhere off my computer, I probably would. So let me show you the Kanban board. Here we are. Okay, I'm going to change monitors. Tell me if it goes off screen or you can see it. Nope, it looks like it left. Okay, here you go. So this is my Kanban board. I use Kanban Flow. There are different kinds of Kanban boards that you can use. This is the one that I found and a while ago. I like it because it's free and everything that I'm using on here is free. They do have a paid version that has a little bit more features. I don't quite need them right now, so I'm just sticking with a free. If I start using this more and more and want to do a little bit more, I might consider the paid version, but right now it's not necessary and I haven't needed to for years. So this is basically a bunch of columns and you can set up however many columns. This right here is something that I use for a writing tracker. This, I haven't really worked much in this because as I said, I'm in between systems. So I'm using a few different things. Kanban Flow, Scrivener, my paper stuff, really trying to figure out what's going to work well for me. When it comes to the tracking, probably, you know, I'm in Kanban enough that I can kind of put stuff in here, but I don't think this is probably my main system for tracking my writing, but it can be for some people. So I have I have a column for dead ideas that I thought maybe once were a great idea. Ideas, stories that I've written that are not in circulation, I haven't marketed them, or I need to market them, or I stopped marketing them. Things that I'm developing. You can see down here on the bottom, these are tags. So I'm able to tag everything that I put in here. I have, you know, kids, middle grade, flash fiction, short stories, novel, creative nonfiction, devotional nonfiction, and then other, because sometimes I write greeting cards. Then I have discovery draft, redevelop, and then over here, these are all closed columns, but you can open them, edit, things that are in critique, submission prep, things that are submitted, ready to submit. I think the thing that this could be really useful for is when I have finished a story, I can take it and I can move it over into ready to submit over here. And I have a, where did my scroll? There we go. Ready to submit and stick it over here. And then I can just look at that. Now I have another board, and these are all my different boards here. I have a reading list. So things that are in waiting, stories I didn't finish, or books I didn't finish that I can go back to, reading in progress, things that I've done. I also use Goodreads. I'm tending to use Goodreads a little bit more. I still use this a little bit, but not quite as much. But the big thing that I use is Core. I call it Core because it's my everything. So this is basically my brain and the things that I have to do. And the reason I say that is because I have so many different hats that I wear. I'm a mom. I'm a special needs parent. I help out with writers chat. So that's my ministry. I do a little bit of teaching, freelance writing, and then I have an editing and developing an art business. And then there's administration for all of that. If I just take my writing and I try to focus on only my writing and try to organize my writing, I'm going to bump out some very important things out of my life because there's only 24 hours in a day. So you have to consider everything that's in your life, all the hats you wear, all of your responsibilities, and try to meld them together. So this is what I try to do with this. Now, it's not a schedule, like as in an hourly schedule, because I don't work well with hourly schedules. You kind of need to figure out how you work. Some people work great on hourly schedules. Me, I don't. I used to think time was my enemy. I actually had to convince myself that scheduling was a good thing. In fact, I have a sticky note right on my monitor here. It says schedules are only difficult for people who are undisciplined in following them. And then I have another note that says, oh, where did it go? I think it fell off my thing. But it basically says, plan the day to keep anxiety away. When you know what you're going to do or you have a goal, it helps you to just have a plan, be able to get through the day a little bit better. So I take this Kanban board and I put different tasks here. I have things that are reserved, things that maybe I don't have to do all the time. You can see I have a hospital packing list, buying medical supplies. My daughter's special needs, we were going to the hospital a lot for a while. I had to keep a bag packed, or since it's been a while, I don't always remember what to keep in the bag anymore. So I have this hospital packing list in my reserved section. Then I have things to do this year, nothing in it right now. This quarter, things to do this month, and then I have this week. And then there is the in progress thing. You can limit how many things you have in progress to kind of force you to get your in progress stuff done and move it to the done column. So that you're not putting too many things on your plate and getting nothing done. The goal is to try to get through things and get things done. So if you are a list maker and you have a hard time getting things done, maybe try a Kanban board. You can do a Kanban board on your wall with Post-it notes. Just make columns for to do, in progress, and done, and write sticky notes, put it on your wall. That is a real basic way to do a Kanban board. So I have things in progress this is a blocked column. Sometimes you are in the process of doing something and then it's blocked because it's depending on something else to finish. So you can stick it there and then take it out. I wrote a to-do list just in case I needed to put things in that I knew I had to do but couldn't get done, and then done. Anyway, so that's what I use to try and figure out my brain. I needed a central place to put everything. I tried using a planner for that. They call that, some people call it Franken-planning. I found that it was making me like Frankenstein because I could not deal with all of that paper stuff there. It was easier for me to have that digitally. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Melissa because it's about 11:45 and I want to give her time to get through things.
Okay, well, I'll try to be very quick with all of these. And if you guys want more in-depth information on some of the stuff I'm sharing for information, we can work that out in another writer's chat. So I also tried to figure out how to zoom my screen in so that you guys could see things better. Hopefully that worked. If I need to blow things up a little more, please let me know. So where we're going to go first is Trello. Can everybody see my screen? All right, so Trello is an app and it's a free app. It has its paid versions too with a little more bells and whistles, but overall, you don't really need them unless you are in the habit of working with teams or groups of people that you need to share information, in which case Trello is kind of set up so that you can do that. Right here, if you set up an account, this is kind of basically what you're going to see from the laptop, your computer version, your desktop. And they give you basically a rundown, a tutorial in their setup so they can show you how to do things. I'm not going to go into all the details of the tutorial, but I'm going to let you know what this is. This is basically your workspace, what you're seeing here. I don't know if you guys can see my cursor, but I'm going to try to guide you with it if you can. And then like Kanban and others, it's set up so that you can create columns. And then within the columns, you can create what they call cards. and all of this is on your work board, you can customize everything so that you can help it to be more focus centered. You can change your backgrounds to images if you like. And this is a basic setup that a lot of people like to do for their basic to-do lists. So you can create a column for to-do, you can create one for doing, and you can create one for done. And I also have one for like notes for just basic to-dos. So you can go and you can have your card that you created, and maybe you start out in your to-dos. In your cards, you can take and you can move them to each column, so that's kind of like a visual way of organizing yourself. So say you created the card like I did for today, create the lesson plan for organizing this writer's chat. And I did that work. And so then when I was working on it, I could move it over here to doing. And then it's a reminder to me that, hey, I need to keep working on that. And once it's finished, it's in the done column. And so it's really easy that way. Another fun thing that you can do is color coordinate things, or add images to make things pop a little more. This is my writing board. It's a little busy, so I may change my background a bit. I don't know if you guys can see all of that with all this image going on, but I like visuals. So with each one, I have like a personal writing, I have my serious writer, I have my faith writers group, and then current projects that I'm working on. So I like to have visual images to help me see what I'm working on. And I'll have a card for my website, for writing definitions, for my newsletter, and other projects that I'm working on. And so if I want to bring those up, I can change those so that they move over to where I want to focus on them more. Like say that I want to get my newsletter up and running for this week. So then I'll move it over to my current projects. And then I'll know that these are two things that I need to really focus on. And you can add color tabs to coordinate things. Maybe you want to draw attention to something with color tabs. Maybe you want to keep stuff really simple and you don't want all the images because that's distracting. You can do that. Let's see here. What have I not covered here? If you want to change your boards, if it's a little too busy, you can go over to side columns and menus. Here, I'm going to have to move images. And they have a little deal that allows you to change the board itself. So you can change your backgrounds to something solid. Or if you want to change the cards themselves, you just would click on them, go into them, and then you can change your covers. You can change informations. With each card, you can add to-do lists so that you can check off those projects step by step. You can add an overall description so you know what you're about. Perhaps you want to put a deadline on something. So you would go in and you can pick a date and set up a deadline for a project, and it will actually send you reminders. You can get this on an app too, so that it'll send you a notification on your computer, on your phone, that you've got a deadline coming up, and it'll pop up that notice for you when you open up your program. Another fun thing I like is that it's so customizable that you can use it like an Excel sheet. So this I created just for you guys. It's like a submissions tracker, and you can customize your columns to whatever you want. I did a real basic layout here. You can make it as detailed or as simple as you want. You have your source that you're going to contact, or your source that you're going to seek to, your contact, your responses, if you booked, contracted, or scheduled something, if you promoted it, and then when the project is done, you could add payments or whatever else you wanted to in it. So here, like maybe these are sites that I'm going to submit to do maybe guest blogs, or to get interviews from, or there's some other promotional information that I want. And I will go in and I'll put all the details in on them. So like here, you can see I've put websites, so I know where to go to send a submission. And then once I've reached out to them, I can move them over to my contact section. And then once they have responded, then I can move them over to the responded. And once we've finalized everything, then it's booked or contracted, and so on and so forth. Yeah, is there any questions? I know I'm kind of rushing through this with our minimal time, wanted to get to everything else. And I
haven't
can't
seen
see
any.
that.
I haven't seen any so far. Trello is very similar to Kanban,
Yes.
Kanban flow that I use. You can set up deadlines and stuff on mine as well. Although on Kanban, you don't have the option for pictures, so it's really cool that you can put pictures on Trello.
Yeah, I like that. And plus you can also search things. So these boards can get really elaborate. I mean, you can fill it up with so much information. And so
It's like your
they
own
actually
personal
have-
Pinterest.
Yeah, it is basically. So you can filter and you can search things by keywords, and you can also clear stuff up too. You can get rid of your sidebars so you can only see your workspace. And if you need that, you can pop it right back out again. So there's a lot of handy things with Trello here, and I'm going to stop sharing that, and we will move on to Pinterest, since I know we're kind of running short on time. But if there are any other questions regarding it, I'd be happy to go back and answer those later or another time.
You want to share one of your tips while you're pulling up your next thing?
Sure. In fact, both of my tips kind of fall into the same yeah, they're kind of very similar to everybody else's tips. So here, basically, it's just, don't be afraid to experiment with different systems to find what works out for you. The best advice that was shared with me was that treat the technology like you would if you were a little child playing with a calculator. Just explore it, have fun with it. Don't be afraid to click on all the little buttons and tabs and see what they do. And the more you do that, the more you learn. And so that's my first bit of encouragement there, is to experiment with different ones until you find what works with you. And then the second one would be, don't feel like you have to stick to one. You don't have to be techie if the texts and the apps and all of that stuff don't work for you. Don't use your planners and your notes, and but again, don't let technology scare you. So experiment, have fun with it. Okay, so on to Pinterest. Pinterest, as you know, is like an online corkboard and a search engine and all of that wrapped into one. And so there are so many ways that you can use it to help organize you. And again, it's visual. I'm a visual person, and so I like the visual aspect of it. And the basic layout, if we go into your saved pins and boards instead of the created sections that they make, then you can see how you organize things, and then you can create your boards and you can go in within them. And one of the things that Pinterest did a little while back, and they're not putting so much emphasis on now because of their search engine capabilities, is that you can create sections for boards, which makes Pinterest very handy for organizing, not as much in search engines. So one thing I want to caution people is to consider how you're using your Pinterest. If you're using your Pinterest as a platform, then you need to be very selective about how you organize things, because you could be cutting those things away from the visual that allows them to be more searchable. But if you're using Pinterest solely for personal and organizing systems, then this is going to blow your mind and you're going to love it. So what I want to do, first too, I want to draw attention to the fact that there are secret boards and there are public boards. And so if you have special projects you don't want people to see, like, some novels that may be coming out, you can make those secret, and then later on you can make them public when the novels debut. So that's one way that you can organize things. You can use those boards for your personal thoughts and organizing your stories, and then later you show them off to the world so people can get like that backstage view of what you've been working on. Okay, so we're going to go into my author board and show you kind of how I work that out. You can use Pinterest to organize personal articles and blogs that you have created, and you can use them to share. So I have just, most of this is from my website. These are blog posts So if you were to click on any one of those images, it would take you to a blog post on my site, which helps draw traffic to it too. But sometimes I want to keep things organized a little better. And so I created sections within my boards so that I could go and look at articles that I've done for like Her View from Home, or personal writing that I've done that's maybe, you know, not quite relevant to my current platform, but I still want it there for reference. And so I've created 2 sections. And I'm going to show you how you can create a section in Pinterest. Now, I haven't created a section for one of my new job descriptions, which is Historical Novel Society. So you would go down here to this fun little plus sign here, and it's going to pop up and you can create a section. And then you can title your section, and I would do and you can do type it however you want, but if you want it searchable, make it something that makes sense. Okay, so then you've created your section, and you can go in and you can go down into your mess of pins that you have, and you can organize it very simply by hovering over a pin, clicking the edit, and then putting it into your sections. So now I have one that I can put a Historical Novel Society interview into, and I can save it. And then voila, it appears right in your section. So it's as easy as that to create sections and to organize things. Pinterest also allows you to drag and drop. So maybe you want to make things a little more visual. You can grab certain items and bring them over and set it up that way. So you can organize pins according to how you want people to see them if they open up the board. Another way that you can organize things for yourself as a writer is to save resources that you've searched online. So because Pinterest is the search engine, it's so handy for that. I got to go back into my save. And I have boards to help me with my research, with writing advice. So maybe you have a lot of articles or websites that you visit online, and you want to save some of that information for reference. So I created a writing advice board, and here's all like miscellaneous ones I haven't categorized. And then I create sections for writing tools that I found online, fiction helps, editing, blogging and social media posts, marketing and publishing. And then I can go to those and quick reference, find something that I need to find that I maybe pinned later on and didn't know that, you know, where it was. Here it is. I can go back and I can find it in my boards. Okay. How are we doing for time? I cannot see a clock here.
It's 2 minutes of noon.
Okay. Real quick, you can use Pinterest for inspiration as well. You can organize your research, story inspiration. That's another thing I do. So maybe I need to find that perfect outfit for a character that I wanted. So maybe I go and I pin an image where I want to see what they would look like in their blacksmith hall. Well, there I have it right there. Or different tools or utensils they might use. I'll save those informations. Maybe I wanted to save a research site. So then you could create a board for all of your research sites online, and you could stock them into your board, and then you can go there and easily click through those. Another thing that Pinterest started doing recently that I hadn't noticed until up to late was their unorganized ideas. I was on, if you're using the phone, sometimes you will pin something and it automatically goes somewhere and you don't know where it went. Well, this is where it goes, to your unorganized ideas. So maybe you see something that you want to pin real quick, but you don't have time to organize it. So you would save it and it pops down here, and then you can organize it and put it into a board later with just a few clicks. So that's another cool thing that Pinterest has done recently. Oh, and collaboration boards. If you're working with a team on something, or you have a co-author, collaborations boards are nice for that, because maybe you have different sources online that you want to share with each other, and you can put that into your collaboration boards. Maybe you have a book group, a writer's group like Serious Writer Book Club. And so you can share all your book recommendations with each other. There are all sorts of fun ways that you can use Pinterest to organize information. And so I really like how versatile it is, and it's only limited by your imagination. So that is the quick overview of how you can use Trello and Pinterest to organize information.
Okay, I use Pinterest a lot, but as a search engine, I thought it only searched within Pinterest. Does it also search articles anywhere?
You can save the articles and use keywords to help make them more searchable, both on this broad spectrum of Pinterest and within your own boards. So I would really emphasize using keywords. And a while back, we had Patricia on talking about Pinterest and using hashtags, and you can use hashtag and keywords to help make those more searchable. So like I follow different websites like oh gosh, I hate it when my brain just totally blanks out like that. But yeah, like Serious Writers or
But it's not actually going to search outside of Pinterest. It's only going to find things for you within Pinterest. Is that right?
Yeah, you still have to put it into Pinterest.
Yes, I can put articles I find into a research board, but it's not going to put them there for me. Okay.
Yeah, only things that are shared to Pinterest will be searchable on it. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, it's getting close to an hour that we've been on, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. This has been great. Again, if you have any kinds of questions, or we can talk about things in the after party. And again, in 2 weeks, we're going to be asking you to share things. And if there's anything that we need to go over, then we can do that too. We'll have time to do that in 2 weeks. Next week, Rhonda Dragomir is going to be with us, and she's going to be talking about book trailers. She's been doing some practicing and learning about creating book trailers on her own. And I love Rhonda for this. She learns something, and then she comes and shares it with us. So that's going to be really exciting to see that. So please, I'm going to go ahead and close this out, but then everybody after that can come on for the after party. If you're watching the replay, we invite you to join us live any Tuesday morning, 10 o'clock Central, 11 o'clock Eastern, and to join our Facebook Writers Chat members group, or to check out our Writers Chat page. Goodbye, everybody. See you next week.